Math Gone Wrong. The title card in Spider-Man: Homecoming that reads 8 years later was one of the MCU's most debated continuity issues, with it being so egregious. The Battle of New York in the first Avengers movie occurred in 2012, and Homecoming was stated to take place only 4 years later in 2016. This timeline gap created a ripple through every connected storyline, throwing off Spider-Man's age, Tony Stark's mentorship period, and even the larger chronology of Phase 3. The fans tried dissecting this endlessly, looking for a possibly acceptable reason behind the glaring plot hole, but Marvel Studios ended up just admitting to the error and clarifying that the movie did in fact take place 4 years later, not 8 after the Battle of New York. Trusting Loki. In the Avengers, Loki is sent to Earth by Thanos with the Chitauri army and the scepter powered by the Mind Stone. However, this decision made little logical sense. Thanos' ultimate goal was to collect all 6 Infinity Stones, so why would he risk giving one away to a famously untrustworthy god who thrives on deception? Fans have theorized that Thanos was testing Loki or using the invasion to draw out Earth's mightiest heroes, but those explanations never appear in the films themselves and have never been addressed by Marvel. In the meantime, to some fans, this oversight weakens Thanos' image. For someone who went as far as sacrificing his own daughter to collect one of the stones, this decision makes his grand plan for the Infinity Stones feel oddly inconsistent. Missing serum. Iron Man 3 introduces the Extremis serum as a groundbreaking advancement capable of regenerating limbs, enhancing strength, and even stabilizing Tony's health. By the film's end, Tony uses it to cure Pepper Potts and remove the shrapnel from his chest. But after that, the technology disappears almost entirely. It's never mentioned in Avengers: Age of Ultron, never used to help injured heroes like Hawkeye and Rhodey, and never referenced by Stark ever again. It becomes part of the main storyline for the show Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., but for a team like the Avengers and for a universe built on evolving technology, the near-total absence of something that powerful and beneficial is hard to believe. Gamora's people. Gamora's tragic backstory is one of the emotional cores of Guardians of the Galaxy, where she's described as the last of her kind. Yet later dialogue and expanded lore imply that other members of her species, the Zenwoberi, still exist. In the scene where young Gamora meets Thanos, it shows in the background that only half of Gamora's kind were wiped out, with Thanos emphasizing balance. This contradiction undermines the trauma that defines Gamora's character. Was last of her kind meant figuratively, referring to her moral compass, or did Thanos exaggerate her tragedy to control her? Without clarification, the emotional resonance of her history loses a bit of focus, especially when her relationship with Nebula and Thanos revolves around that loss. S.H.I.E.L.D. hole. Captain America the Winter Soldier revealed that Hydra had secretly infiltrated S.H.I.E.L.D. for decades. While it's one of the MCU's best plot twists, it also creates a plot hole of its own and raises a big question. How could the world's most advanced intelligence organization fail to notice a huge breach in security like this, especially by an organization like Hydra? S.H.I.E.L.D. monitored extraterrestrial activity, global weapons programs, and the Avengers themselves, yet never discovered the corruption within its own ranks. Even more confusing, remnants of S.H.I.E.L.D. later appeared in other MCU projects without addressing how they rebuilt after that betrayal. The lack of closure leaves a lingering inconsistency about who truly controls the world's intelligence network in the MCU's current timeline. Timeline branch. The time travel logic in Avengers Endgame continues to spark debate. Bruce Banner explained that changing the past doesn't alter your present. It simply creates a new reality branch in the timeline. However, Steve Rogers' final decision in Endgame contradicted that rule. After returning the stones, he stayed in the past to live with Peggy Carter, and later reappeared as an elderly man in the same timeline. This implies either that he somehow crossed realities again, or that the MCU rules don't apply to him. However, this plot hole was explained by the directors themselves, stating that while Steve lived his life in the alternate branch after choosing to stay with Peggy, he used his quantum suit and the remainder of his Pym Particles to jump time and dimension to be back in that same spot where he passed down the S.H.I.E.L.D. to Sam Wilson. Missing tech. Throughout the MCU, game-changing technological inventions appear and vanish depending on narrative convenience. The most glaring example is Pym Particles. Hank Pym's lab in Ant-Man and the Wasp shows an entire supply of them, yet during Endgame, they suddenly become a scarce resource, forcing the Avengers into a one-chance, no-do-over scenario. Similarly, Shuri's advanced Wakandan technology could have been used to heal or assist other heroes throughout the events that follow Black Panther, yet it rarely appears outside of it. These disappearances break immersion for fans who track technological continuity and expect scientific progress to remain consistent in a shared universe that prides itself on interconnectivity. Phil is alive. Agent Phil Coulson's death in the Avengers was pivotal as it united Earth's mightiest heroes for the first time. But his resurrection in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. introduces a massive continuity question. The television series reveals that Coulson was revived through Project Tahiti with a serum made of Kree blood, yet the films never acknowledge it. On top of that, none of the Avengers appear to know he's alive, one of the most prominent S.H.I.E.L.D. figures, even years later. If the show is considered MCU canon, that silence makes no sense. If it isn't, then one of the franchise's most emotional moments becomes narratively isolated. Either way, the lack of acknowledgement weakens the shared universe concept that the MCU is built on. Forgotten Accords. The Sokovia Accords, which was a major focus in one of the biggest MCU movies of all time, once divided the Avengers and reshaped global policy on superheroes. In Captain America: Civil War, these laws were the single most important piece of world building in Phase 3. But by Infinity War and Endgame, the Accords disappear entirely. Heroes operate freely again, with no mention of government oversight or punishment. Later, She-Hulk, attorney at law, casually reveals that the Accords were repealed, but this happens entirely off-screen. That silent resolution makes the entire Civil War conflict feel diminished, as if its ideological and political stakes vanished overnight without explanation. Giant Celestial. At the end of Eternals, the emergence of Tiamat leaves a colossal adamantium celestial body jutting out of the Indian Ocean. This should have been a world-changing event, an alien god frozen mid-birth visible from space. Yet, up until Captain America: Brave New World, his existence was completely ignored and unaddressed. Wakanda Forever, Quantumania, and the Marvels all proceed as if nothing happened. The absence of even a background mention for that long makes the MCU's interconnected world feel strangely fragmented. If Earth experienced a cosmic event that monumental, every government, hero, and villain should have been talking about it right away. Where's Carol? Captain Marvel revealed that Nick Fury's modified pager was a direct line to Carol Danvers in case of emergencies. Yet during the Avengers, when Earth faced its first alien invasion, he never used it. The Chitauri attack in New York qualifies as a galaxy-level crisis, but Fury waited until Infinity War, after half the universe was already gone, to finally call her. Few explanations have come around to fix this plot hole, with some saying that Nick Fury believed in the Avengers alone to stop the invasion, which they admittedly did, or that she was off helping other worlds. However, this hesitation creates a logical question in Fury's credibility and judgment as the MCU's most prepared strategist. Personality change. Several MCU heroes undergo drastic personality changes without clear narrative transitions. Thor evolves from a reckless Asgardian warrior in his early films to a self-aware comedian by Love and Thunder. Doctor Strange shifts from a disciplined and calculating doctor and sorcerer from all the way up to Infinity War to an impulsive improviser in Multiverse of Madness. Even Star-Lord fluctuates between reckless and serious depending on the tone of his films. While character evolution is natural, these shifts often happen between appearances rather than through gradual storytelling. Without visible development, the characters feel a bit rewritten to fit tonal shifts rather than evolving through earned growth, which can leave audiences disconnected from their journeys.